Hello and welcome to a very special edition of Nomios101. Today I'm joined by two individuals. We have Tom Wilburn from Juniper MIST, the Head of Global AI Enterprise, and our very own Alex Walker from Nomios, a technical consultant. So welcome, gentlemen. Thank you for joining us. So today we're going to have a quick chat about MIST, or Juniper MIST specifically. So what does a network professional think about when they're drawn to MIST? Are they drawn to the location-based services such as wayfinding, asset tagging, proximity notifications? Excuse me. Maybe this is so because the marketing surrounding MIST when it was first released was very much focused on these features, very, very brilliant features, might I add. The case studies that came with it were focused around huge US-based organizations with thousands of employees, hundreds of locations, etc. I suppose what I'm saying here is that a US mid-sized organization perhaps is a huge organization in Europe. And where that leads me to is that our customers, perhaps the marketing narrative around the location-based services wasn't so much a priority for our customers. We see the value of MIST around the customer experience. So on that's on two levels. So there's our customers where we're able, or MIST allows our customers to deal with issues with agility and speed. And then you have our customers whereby MIST is allowing business tools, applications to run smoothly. They don't see what's going on behind the scenes. They see the graceful swan. So I suppose let's bring it back. What can MIST do for the everyman? What can a European mid-sized organization extract from MIST? And that's where I'll lead you guys into it.
Shall I jump in?
Sure.
Alex?
Yeah, go for it.
So there was a lot there, Will. First, I think we've been very proud of the fact that the largest companies in the world have standardized on this platform. So we tend to talk about that to convey that it's safe to move forward with a disruptive player like MIST for any size company. But if you look at our customer base, our smallest customers actually serve residential markets, a single access point in a home. And we're price competitive for that market with this type of technology. And our largest customer is actually Fortune 1, the largest company in the world. And we tend to talk in our marketing maybe a little bit too much about these huge companies that have moved very large estates, hundreds of thousands of access points onto this platform in an effort to emphasize that it's not only ready for mission critical networks, but for highly scaled networks. So, but clearly our customer base is broad, and I think the reason we gravitated to those very large accounts is they have more pain in their network than the smaller companies do, but everyone has a set of consistent pain points with how networks have been designed and operated, and that's what we were trying to solve for. I think to your earlier point about location services, one of the very first products we brought to market was called Beacon Point. And it was basically an access point that was designed just for location services. It was actually OEM by Cisco to complement their wireless LAN solution. So it got a lot of play in the market. When I think about most customers, location is one of 5 things that we do that's very important. And it's usually something they add after they purchase the network. So their primary goals are to get a better network that's easier to operate and to enable IT to be proactive. And location is kind of the cherry on top that comes in after, if at all, for most customers.
Okay. So going back to the scale conversation there, Juniper's got great history of releasing large products, I think of the MX and the PTX, successfully, and then scaling them down and shrinking them. Tell me a bit about how MIST is doing there. Does it really scale down to the smaller deployments?
Yeah, it does. We have price points that are, I mentioned we have residential services that service providers deliver on our product into a single access point in a home. Some of our customers just have large estate homes and we run the network in a house. We use the same thing in college dormitory facilities. So the product absolutely scales down to a single room and the price point to match. and it scales up to literally the largest network in the world.
Okay. I've been speaking to a number of my customers, a number of Nomios' customers about this area, and a few themes have come up. One of the things I find is some of the organisations that we'd be looking to deploy a Juniper or MIST solution into potentially, they don't necessarily have networking departments or Wi-Fi expertise or any of that. They're becoming more kind of a generalist spread IT. How can something like MIST help an organisation like that?
So I think first, for organizations that are highly skilled, the skills they've developed over the years all come into play. We try to make it much faster to deploy with automation and much easier to operate with automation to do root cause analysis. But what we've added is an element, we've trademarked the name Marvis for our conversational assistant. And now you can actually ask Marvis, what's wrong with my network? So we're finding that the largest IT staffs, their level 1 help desk, they're using that. So when we go into the small and mid-market size, there may not be a dedicated IT team, and they can use the same capability literally to say, who in my network is unhappy today? And Marvis will tell you. and then you can say why.
Yeah.
And Marvis will tell you. So it's really intended to simplify operations.
It's interesting you say that, because networks historically, I point to Alex here, but were spun up and managed by geeks, if you like, and it's nice to hear that MIST is so easy to manage, and that's definitely a key for our customers, is the ease of use and how easy it is, the actionable insights, things like that. Yeah.
I'd love to probe you on some real world examples though, because I've been in the industry long enough. When I hear things like, AI badged on the end of something, it's eye roll from, the likes of me. But from what I've seen of the Marvis virtual assistant and some others, it does look promising. But can you give me some real world examples of how that AI and how the virtual assistant is helping real IT help desks?
We actually look for that feedback from our customers post-deployment. One of the ones that I talk about is the CIO of ServiceNow. ServiceNow is a global enterprise, 17,000 employees. Most large enterprises have adapted their platform for automation inside their enterprise. And the CIO at ServiceNow challenged us a couple of years ago to say, if AI is real, if this is not just marketing, since everybody has picked up this theme, MIST, that you've been talking about, why can't I eliminate trouble tickets from my network? Literally have none. I would like the network to know that somebody is unhappy before they call IT and either fix it automatically or notify my staff and tell us exactly what is wrong so that they can fix it if it's not in the network per se. And he challenged us to what he called a race to zero. He was averaging for 17,000 employees about 100 trouble tickets a month from the Wi-Fi network. He estimated there were a lot more people that suffered in silence that never opened up a call. And he challenged us to go to zero. By his reckoning, we've reduced it by 97%. We've taken 100 trouble tickets down to 3. And what we found is a race to zero is really hard.
Yeah,
As
sure.
you get to those corner cases, like lightning hits a building, kind of hard for us to fix that automatically or avoid it. But truly, a partnership there to do just what you said. How do we make AI real? How do we have an impact on the business and avoid the marketing hype that AI is associated with? So for ServiceNow, it was eliminating trouble tickets. Most of our customers see 50 to 80% reduction in problems that just go away that AI is handling. It doesn't mean we eliminate all problems. It's not, a panacea. So the second thing we try to do, and the world's largest logistics company documented this, about a 96% reduction in the time it took to resolve a trouble ticket if they still had them. So we're first focused on how can automation and AI eliminate the problem, get ahead of it, and then if we can't do that, how can we help the IT staff to solve it quickly? Because if you have a sophisticated large IT team, they're spending more time than they want firefighting problems.
Absolutely.
And not developing capabilities that advance the business. And we want to take that part of the drudgery and going into the office at 1 in the morning to upgrade a controller We want to get that out of their life.
Yeah.
And allow them to do the things that the skills they developed were really valuable to the business for.
It's great seeing the death of the Wi-Fi controller, because over the years they appear great on paper, but they're just painful to manage for sure. Yeah. So it's been nice to see as MIST has progressed over the years. It started off as largely a Wi-Fi product, and then wired assurance has been added, looking at the kind of campus switch infrastructure, and now WAN assurance, looking at the edge and security. One thing with MIST though, it's entering a bit of from what I see, is a bit of a crowded software market space with other Juniper products potentially in there as well, such as historically Juno Space, Network Director, Security Director, and others. How do you see MIST fitting into that place, and what are the benefits it can bring?
So today, we've extended the MIST cloud management architecture, and more importantly, AI ops, from initially just the MIST wireless portfolio to now cover the Juniper switching portfolio, and now, as you mentioned, our SD-WAN solution, both with our SRX platform and our new SSR platform. So that's the scope that we focused on, because that scope allows us to understand the client experience in real time, from client to cloud, across the wireless, the switching, and the WAN network. And that was one of our customers that said, look, here's the problem I want to solve. I want to know a user is having a bad experience, say on Microsoft Teams or Zoom. I want to know it before they call IT, and I want you to tell me where it is, including if it's an application issue. So you need visibility from client to cloud. So that's been our focus. And in that area, the MIST platform is the go-to platform for those technologies. So will we support some of those earlier platforms? Of course we will. But is our go forward about a common, it's beyond single pane of glass. When I hear people say single pane of glass, I think late 90s, early aughts.
Yeah, it's another eye roll from the techies who've been around a few years.
And it was cool when it came out.
Sure.
But what single pane of glass does is delivers more data. It doesn't deliver insights. So I think it does need to be a single pane of glass, but that's not enough. And that's where AI comes in, and Marvis, to actually tell you, here's what you need to know. Here's what you have to act on. We call it Marvis Actions, that actually summarizes, hey, here's what's hot.
Let me ask you going back to the Wi-Fi piece, let me ask you a Wi-Fi question. I've got a customer at the moment that's on the verge of deploying maybe 100 or so access points in an environment. But Wi-Fi, as you know, leaps ahead in generations. So Wi-Fi 6 has been around a little while now, but now 6E is on the verge, and they're literally looking at data sheets thinking, is it worth this investment in 6E? Can you tell me what 6E is likely to give for an organization? What are the benefits?
Well, what 6E does, of course, is opens up the 6 gigahertz spectrum to us, so it goes beyond Wi-Fi 6. 6E is a new frequency band that's been allocated in most parts of the world. Most of Europe, obviously, we're now approved for operation in Europe and the US and many other parts of the world. So it's a huge step forward in the amount of bandwidth. What I am surprised by is the rapid uptake that we're seeing. I think this is going to be one of the faster transitions that we've seen over the years from Wi-Fi generations. And what has surprised me is that we expected to see rapid adoption in the university environment with these high-density, challenging environments, lecture hall with 200 students, all with sophisticated, state-of-the-art devices connecting and doing video and everything else. What has surprised me is that our retail customers, grocery stores, are moving forward now in an effort, in their words, to future-proof the network. And I think they'll accomplish that. I think there's so much spectrum, so much bandwidth that's been opened up with 6E. It's hard to imagine in the next 5 or 6 years exceeding the capacity of that network, in most of these settings. So we're seeing a very rapid uptake, much faster than we expected.
Good, excellent.
Great. Thank you so much, gentlemen. Before you go, I'm not going to let you go that quickly. What do you think would be the key takeaway point from our discussion today?
It's in the past 6 months, I've participated in and had an opportunity to read the research from companies like IDC, NTT, a global partner surveyed their customer base. And the themes that have become so clear to us, and I think the pandemic actually influenced this, was the broader theme was business resiliency, about how do we continue to operate networks even when you can't go into the office. And that's where the death of the controller has really come forward. So the central themes I think that I hear from customers is cloud managed networks are clearly the future. And by the way, every manufacturer on our side of the table has articulated a vision of cloud managed networks. But then the second theme is AI operations. People are getting past some of the initial skepticism of AI stamped on everything to say, you know, there are a lot of things that happen in networks that if you had rich telemetry from the network, lots of data, and you could do that correlation with a machine, it would help my staff enormously. So I think the foundational elements are cloud managed, AI-driven networks. That's what we think about. And then there are other services. We started talking about location services, and they become really valuable. One of the very large banks here in the UK adopted our platform. They absolutely purchased it because the IT organization said we can deliver better Wi-Fi services on this platform than any other. But as the sales cycle was drawing to a close, the real estate department in the bank had funding for a separate network to understand how the real estate was being used. Because like most organizations, they want to know, post-pandemic, is this expensive office space being used?
I was going to ask you to touch upon that, because as much as we diverted the conversation away from the location-based services, I was interested to hear how a bank would be using that for customers or employees or both.
Both.
Yeah.
Both. So for employees, it's simply on most companies, for most companies, their number 2 expense after payroll is real estate. And these real estate departments and the chief financial officer is wondering, do we have too much space? Do we have the right type of space?
How many people are in the conference rooms?
Exactly.
All those kinds of things.
How
And
many devices are in the...
if the system is designed properly, and ours is, we can tell you that. It's there. You don't have to run an overlay network. So that's exciting. And then across different verticals, education, healthcare, retail, we're seeing that location services can personalize the service that you deliver a customer. So the things that we expect when we're on an e-commerce platform, where you're interacting with this system that knows your purchasing history, probably knows more about you than your spouse, and they can deliver things that are interesting. If you're a retailer that maintains the brick and mortar stores, how do you compete with that? And how do you deliver services in store that are valuable to the consumer and personalized? And there's incredible opportunity there. In the healthcare space, we were pleased to win the largest healthcare provider in the United States recently. And their objective, obviously we had to have, Wi-Fi is almost life critical in that environment. So it's essential to the operation of the hospital. That was primary. But right behind that was delivering what they call better patient experiences. And Wi-Fi is important to that as well. And location services help every person in that hospital, from a patient who's trying to navigate this large facility to a doctor or a nurse trying to find a piece of equipment. And it's infused into that network. So it does come into play.
Alex, so as the pessimistic techie here, who's seen a lot of these marketing terms before, the thing that I'm most excited about, to be honest, is the outcomes from the AI. You call it sometimes actionable intelligence, I believe. One of the things I've noticed with a MIST deployment is you come to a particular page and there's a big actions lozenge in the middle, and it comes to you with things like, I think you've got a cable fault over here on this switch, or I think you're missing a VLAN to an access point on this switch. I've seen a lot of kind of marketeering of this kind of stuff over the years, but to actually see outcomes that I'm thinking, personally, some of the teams I'm working with in some of our customer organisations, that's really valuable to them. So I've got a positive anticipation of the future for MIST AI. It's good.
Thanks, Alex.
And one of the things about AI, if Marvis tells you you have a bad cable, it sounds a little arrogant to say this, but it's not wrong.
No, it's probably
it can't be
right.
wrong.
Yeah, sure.
It's a data-driven statement of fact, so you can rely on it. And the reason that's so important is we had a very large retail chain rolling out. And the team, as they were planning for the rollout, said, you know, we should be replacing that cabling. And that cabling investment was big.
Yeah, yeah.
And we mentioned, well, you know, the system will tell you if there's a bad cable. And so they decided not to replace the cabling and to count on the system to say, okay, you know, we got 16 drops in this store, one is bad.
Yeah.
And it did exactly that.
Yeah.
And across, I think it was 15,000 access point deployment, we found 40 bad cables. And to be able to tell it immediately, it saved them a lot of money, but it was also right when it tells you that.
And that's the needle in the haystack thing. You know, I think of a deployment a few years ago, you wouldn't have found that. You just wouldn't have found it.
You wouldn't.
Because there's just too much data to look at, yeah.
And the example of missing VLANs.
Yeah.
Truly a needle in the haystack.
It happens.
The switch says, I'm green and everything is
Yeah,
good.
yeah.
The AP says, I'm green and everything is good. But between the two, if the VLAN is
You've got this
missing,
black hole that
you
you
have a
can't
black
see.
hole.
Yeah.
And
Great.
AI can find that stuff.
Yeah.
The people that love the system the most are the IT teams that operate it day to day. That's the real beneficiary. Obviously, the business benefits, but the people who are dealing with these issues every day are the ones that love it.
Great.
As I can clearly see, we could talk about this for hours, but I've got a producer in my earpiece telling me to wrap it up. But thank you so much to Tom, and obviously thank you, Alex. I'm sure we'll have a bit more information in the banner below to find out more. But thank you so much for watching. Thank you again to Tom and Alex. I've been Will Reincke. This has been Nomios101. Thanks again. See you soon.